Alrighty, welcome back for another episode of Two Plane Sports. Today is Thursday, July 27th, and the Sooners are recruiting like crazy right now with the party at the Palace getting ready to start, and then Sooners Under the Stars is ongoing as this video is being released. Started yesterday on Wednesday. What a start. We'll dive in. We've already released a video on Kamari Moore, but we'll talk just a touch on him. Talk about another visitor that's already been on campus and has already left at this point, from our understanding, and then talk about a few more pivotal guys that are going to be coming on campus for the party at the Palace, and basically to push them over the edge and see if they can't become Sooners here sometime in the near future. So, but before we do, be sure to like, subscribe, turn the notification bell on, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Apple, Spotify, and TikTok. Everything's linked in the description below. And remember, every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Central, we go live. So just so you don't forget, turn that notification bell on so you get that push notification so you can hop in, talk some recruiting, talk some commits, just hang out, and we can answer some questions. So we'll see you there on Tuesday. So let's get going. I think the first, just kind of already, we're seeing fruits of Oklahoma's labor basically in landing the 2025 defensive lineman Kamari Moore from Lee Summit, Missouri. We talked about him in another video that we released Wednesday evening. So if you hadn't already seen that, go check that out, where we actually went more in depth on how he plays and things like that. But obviously, that's a huge way to start in the middle of his visit. It's just going to show, and the whole thought of Oklahoma not taking commits a year plus out and all this other stuff. It's kind of bucking the trend with the way this 25 class is starting to roll. Do you have any other just small thoughts or quick thoughts before we move on and kind of talk about some other guys?
Not really. When we said it, most of it in the video, like he himself is a very, very good player. The fact that he's not rated, people shouldn't look at stars and at this moment. Maybe you can look at it in 6 months when they're maybe more current and up to date. But he's going to be special. This 2025 class is a huge head start to what we've seen in 2 years. So it just shows what these coaches can do when they have a good amount of time to create these relationships and talk to these kids to have them buy in. At this point, like these guys in 2025, I've already said, not going anywhere else. I'm a Sooner, and this is where I will be in 2 years. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, and it obviously doesn't hurt with his commitment and the connection and the pipeline that's forming from the Kansas City area, more specifically Lee Summit, Missouri, to Norman. It does not hurt the fact that this is started. I guess we can talk about Lee Summit and just kind of mention. I think most people know at this point because there's been a lot of Twitter action and live streams and things like that talking about it. But 2024 5-star defensive lineman Williams Nwaneri ultimately isn't or didn't or won't make the trip to Oklahoma this weekend like originally anticipated. It seems like some issues came up or whatever, one reason or another, he's not here. He was supposed to kind of come with Kamari Moore, being teammates and probably really good friends. It stinks. It sucks that Williams Nwaneri isn't there to be like, yeah, man, cheering him on and like congratulating him for his commitment and kind of being there for him. It does suck that he's not there. Is it a little concerning? I don't really necessarily think so. I mean, he's been to Oklahoma so many times, and yeah, if he does ultimately take that trip to Oregon, that's been reported that he's supposed to be going to. Is it bad that Oklahoma's not getting the last visit? I mean, it's less than ideal, but Oklahoma wasn't even going to get the last visit regardless whether he showed up or not. I think Oklahoma's recruited him enough. He's been to Oklahoma enough that he knows what he's getting in Oklahoma. So I don't really think this is like, oh my gosh, he's gone. People are overreacting. It's less than ideal, but I think Oklahoma's going to be fine ultimately. There's plenty of commits in the 24 class that visited places else. Their last visits were elsewhere than Oklahoma. What do you think?
Yeah. The only thing that would be concerning, even if he does take that Oregon visit, is if the commitment date is pushed back to late August, early September, because then you know something might have happened where Oklahoma's going to need to battle back. As long as that commitment stays true to happening early August, whether it's the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, whatever day it is, Oklahoma should feel just fine. Like that. The biggest thing, and we talked about it before we started recording, if it's true what is being said about Williams, him and his family being big on like the relationships, being comfortable where he's going, whatever bag Oregon will throw will at the end of the day not matter, because Oklahoma's playing that NIL game significantly better than they did last season, and they're the school that's built the best relationship. When you look, and Othuna said it, Drum has said it, basically anyone that follows recruiting very, very closely has said it, like we do. It's just like Oklahoma's the only constant. No matter what point in his recruitment you jumped into, from the beginning to this point, right before his commitment, it's been Oklahoma versus someone. Like, you're not going to just have, and I said it in another video, you're not going to have a smooth road to landing 5-star defensive linemen, especially when it's the number 1 player in the class according to some platforms.
Everyone's going to have an open roster spot for him and give him the best offer that they possibly can. And Oklahoma is the one constant. It seemed like, is Georgia making a run? Is Tennessee making a run? Is Missouri making a run? Is Oregon making a run? But it's always OU is hanging around there. And at the end of the day, that's what you got to hang your hat on and hope that ultimately wins out.
And this show was pretty constant. This show is pretty consistent with saying Missouri's going to be the one that's going to give Oklahoma a problem at any point, because those guys keep their in-state kids pretty well.
Yeah. I mean, they were competitive with Caden Green, that's for sure.
They're competitive. Ended up taking Luther Burden.
Yeah, and they're competitive. I mean, at the end of the day, they do what they can to keep their 5 stars that come through, or high 4 stars. Maybe one every year that they try to keep at home, and generally, I mean, they didn't get PJ, luckily, and hopefully they swing and miss on old Williams Nwaneri. So, but I don't think. I mean, the fact that you've got Caden Green here, you've got Kamari Moore committed. I mean, it's kind of similar to David Stone, where friends and teammates and things like that have committed to Oklahoma. It just kind of seems like he would naturally fit in at Oklahoma. So, at the end of the day, I know people might be hitting the panic button and, kind of a David Hicks, basically PTSD type deal, like, oh my gosh, it's happening again. I think you need to pump the brakes. It's going to be okay. But, at the end of the day, things change. But I don't really think that this is, something to be terribly concerned about. So, So talking about something more positive, a visit that's already happened is 2025 5-star offensive tackle Michael Fasusi from Louisville, Texas, 6'4", 285 pounds, as the number 5 offensive tackle in the country. He came up to Oklahoma and visited, and he posted on Twitter. It seemed like the visit was great, and he really enjoyed it. And it seems like Oklahoma did a pretty solid job at least selling him on the idea. And obviously with having the quarterback already committed in Kevin Sperry and kind of doing that peer-to-peer recruiting and, trying to convince him, hey, come up to Oklahoma and be the guy that blocks for me, on either side of the offensive line that does not hurt. And, being at Carl Albert High School, just right down the road from OU, that's an easy drive to Oklahoma for Kevin Sperry. So it seems like that there's positive momentum. I wouldn't say that there's like a commitment imminent by any means. I mean, at the end of the day, this is a 5-star. What do you think?
It would be huge for Oklahoma to get a tackle like that. He is big. He's very good with his feet. And shout out to Kevin Sperry. He is doing a hell of a job with his peer-to-peer recruiting. I don't really think we can think, at least I can't think of someone that's done such a great job at being so bought in that they are able to, put that energy out there with the guys that are on visits with him and basically having him commit probably way sooner than most would have anticipated it happening, especially to Oklahoma, where the policy is no more visits after you commit to OU. That's crazy, and I think Kevin Sperry doing a great job. If NIL in any way were to be involved with performance, this dude deserves a bonus because I can't imagine that without him, Oklahoma's in the spot they're in at this moment with the commitments of the 2025 class. And I know it's not many. We're only talking about 3 guys at this point. But 3 is way more than 0, which is where we were at last year at this time with the 2024 class. So you gotta take your wins where you get them, and 2025 seems to be getting those wins a lot quicker than we have seen for Oklahoma these last 2 recruiting cycles.
It's moving well. And at the end of the day, any 5-star, it's going to be difficult to win out the recruitment. There's a reason why they're a 5-star, and there's a reason why there's only a handful, like 30, 32 guys, 35 guys that earn that 5th star in a composite 5-stars. And with being 6'6", 285 going into your junior year of high school, I mean, you're sought after. He's got offers from Alabama and pretty much anywhere where he wants to go. I think having Kevin Sperry there at his recruitment, selling him is massive. I think, being in Louisville's not far. It's basically Oklahoma South, or, North Texas becomes Oklahoma, Oklahoma South in that DFW area. I like where Oklahoma sits, but again, I don't feel like he is anywhere near making a commitment. But, if Oklahoma plays well this fall and you roll into the spring game and you kind of roll in that early summer, I mean, I would think Oklahoma can make a push there, and they're going to be a player in this recruitment. So I think it was huge to at least get the ball rolling, and I think Oklahoma knocked it out of the park.
Yep, I agree 100% there. I wonder how. I don't know. Real side note here: going into next spring game, assuming what we all hope and believe, OU performs well this fall. Do you think it's crazy to assume that there's going to be maybe 6, 7 recruits in the 2025 class by the time spring game rolls around?
Oh, I don't think that's unreasonable. I really don't. I mean, you look at what do they have? They have Grayson Harris, Kevin Sperry, Kamari Moore, all in the boat. Isaiah Mosey seems like a guy that hopefully would become a Sooner, and there's bound to be a couple. Yeah, I think 6, 7, or 8 could very well be possible and feasible. And you have 6 to 8 commits going in that, and then you might pick up another 1 or 2 before Champ U barbecue, and you have maybe close to 10. I mean, you're only looking to land 10 to 15 more throughout the summer. In July, historically, based on this year and last year, July's great.
Yep.
For Oklahoma. So, man, I think so, especially if Oklahoma puts together a 10-game, 10-win season and even compete or even win the Big 12 championship. If they win the Big 12 championship, this 2025 class, I mean, 24 is going to be great because they're going to finish strong and they might land a few recruits that they wouldn't have if they struggled. But if they play well in 2023 and rolling into 2024, going to the SEC, there's going to be a ton of hype in that 25 class to be a part of it. And I think you're going to see the effect of the SEC in playing well. It's going to show really well for Oklahoma. And and all I can also hope is that Texas struggles and Steve Sarkisian gets the boot, and it opens up a few guys in the state of Texas that would have potentially committed to Texas and might be more open to playing in Oklahoma and the stability there and things like that. So obviously, hopefully Texas struggles this year, which, they seem to always do. And so, I mean, why would this year be any different, right?
I agree. It's gotta hope for the best here.
Yep. So let's move on. We're going to be talking about now some 2024 guys that are kind of nearing a decision that will be on campus, and some pivotal weekend for a lot of commits, and who could really basically run up to that top 3 class to watch Jose shave his beard. So the first guy we'll talk about is an in-state product, and Josh Isosa. And again, I know I'm the king of butchering names. I assume this is how you pronounce his name. If not, please grill me below. That is totally fine. That's almost something I'm going to start doing on purpose now, just because it's going to be funny. Because people that don't watch all the time are going to be like, "What is this guy saying?" But anyway, Josh Isosa, basically 6'4", 305 pounds from Santa Fe High School in Edmond, Oklahoma. He's nearing a commitment here relatively soon. He's a kind of a late offer guy. Oklahoma, I believe, they offered on July 7th after they lost out on Casey Poe, and they're still needing to add some more guys. They've got Isaiah Autry, Eugene Brooks was just picked up, and Josh Isosa seems to be a guy that being in Edmond, 45 minutes away from Norman, making the trip down. This seems to be pretty much a formality, in my opinion. At least it seems like as soon as Oklahoma offered him, it seems like Oklahoma just shot up to the top of his list. Probably I would think the most elite football program that has offered him, and being right down the road and probably grew up an Oklahoma fan. This seems like a slam dunk. I think Coach B's got himself another offensive lineman and someone that could be a part of this class. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. Basically, it's going to be important to have him. Big for this class, especially for the offensive line recruiting, where many were worried, and maybe it's not where you would like these guys to be ranked. And we talked about it in our live. I think for the most part, ranking offensive linemen is one of the hardest things to do unless you played it, and I would almost guarantee that most of the recruiting platforms don't have like an O-line expert, or at least one that played it at a high level. If it's Trent Williams telling you that's a very good offensive lineman, or Lane Johnson, basically, or Coach B, the guy that's been producing offensive line talent for the NFL and the Super Bowl champions Kansas City Chiefs for a while now, you got to assume that it's a player that, if not ready now, at least has the potential in 1 or 2 years in the system and working with Schmitty. They're going to be good, either really good depth or very good players to have on that number one unit protecting the quarterback. And the fact that he's in Oklahoma, I think that just helps with the fan base itself for the last maybe like decade, since Lincoln Riley basically took the job. The in-state recruiting hasn't been as strong as some would like, and it's gotten better with Brent Venables. I don't think it's right where most would like it to be, but you're getting these guys to really start paying more attention to Oklahoma. You're not seeing most go to Oklahoma State or Arkansas. You still lose some, but that's a given. Like, some people just don't want to stay in the state. They want to go explore somewhere else, live their young adult lives somewhere else. That's fine. But you're still getting talent from the state, and that helps especially when it comes to trying to build a culture in that locker room.
And he's got great size. I mean, 6'4", 305 pounds. That is a large human, and someone that fits the two planes sports motto. And that's someone that I think we should all be excited about. He needs a little bit of development, strength and conditioning, and things like that. But I think nothing that Oklahoma can't get the best out of him for. So it's definitely someone that I would hope is a part of this class. We'll stay on the offensive line. Another guy that's coming in for a visit is Grant Bricks. I know I've been saying Grant Bree, but I've since been corrected again. I should just say Grant Bree, actually, just to keep it rolling. Coming in out of the state of Kansas, or Iowa, Logan, Iowa. I was thinking about Michael Boganowski. Being a top 100 player, the number 5 offensive tackle. It seems like it's an OU, K-State, Nebraska battle here. Coming in, this is it for Oklahoma. This is your final pitch. You got to tell them and sell them on being a part of this class. He is the highest rated offensive lineman that Oklahoma seems to be in the running for. I think this is a must get. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but you need to get that high end guy like they got Caden Green, you need at least one of those higher end guys, and I think Grant Brooks is that guy. And it would be huge for Oklahoma to scoop him up. But it seems like Oklahoma will be the pick, but it's just a matter of will he leave the Midwest and come down and kind of leave his comfort zone of that Lincoln, K-State, Manhattan area. Is he willing to come down to Oklahoma and play in the SEC? I think the fact that Oklahoma's going to the SEC is huge, and I think that's something that obviously Nebraska and K-State cannot offer.
I was going to bring up the SEC because for anyone that plays in the trenches on either side of the ball, that has to play a huge factor. When you look at the NFL draft, it's SEC offensive linemen usually taken up there. And yeah, some Big Ten, depending on which school they went to, but you're looking a lot. If you really look at the whole draft board, it's a lot of SEC offensive linemen and defensive linemen. So that definitely plays a huge factor for Oklahoma. They've still got a little bit of work to do here, but you got to feel good where you are and having this much momentum, plus Coach B recruiting for you. Like he's gonna do everything he can. You just got, like you said, you got to hope that he's comfortable with moving a little bit further south to get away a little bit further from family. As long as that happens, I think you got to feel good where Oklahoma is sitting after this weekend's visits for him.
You do, and I just want to say also, this isn't, if Oklahoma loses out, this is not because Oklahoma doesn't want it. That this would be a definite loss and a blow to the top three class. So I'm certainly hoping that Grant Brooks is in this class. That is huge and something that Oklahoma needs to land. And so staying in kind of in that Midwest region, we'll talk a little Michael Boganowski, the 6'2", 205-pound linebacker safety hybrid kind of player out of Junction City, Kansas. Coming in, visiting Oklahoma. It seems to be an OU K-State battle. He has so many ties to K-State, but he also loves Oklahoma. This seems to be kind of a coin flip. Again, I think the fact that Oklahoma can offer the SEC, I think both for Bricks and Boganowski, is the fact that they know that Oklahoma can offer them a better opportunity to play and develop and play at the highest level of college football, but they're probably a touch uncomfortable leaving home. And I'm not going to act like, I only moved 2 hours away for college. So I understand, the thought of moving 4, 5, 6 hours away. It's a little bit daunting. But I think deep down with that, their guts telling them Oklahoma's where they need to be, they're going to make that decision and just go for it, because I think that's what they know.
Well, I think K-State also has some favorable things going for them. You have Oklahoma and Texas leaving. I'm not like a big follower of Kansas State recruiting, but I would assume that after last season, after the seasons they've had in recent history, they won the Big 12 last year. Probably very hopeful in where they're going to be in the near future once again Oklahoma and Texas leave. They might become the powerhouse of the Big 12. When you look at the conference itself, TCU did go to the national championship. Can they keep it up? To say they've been really consistently good, I don't think would be true. And they also kind of came out of nowhere last year. Pretty sure that most people preseason expected them to be towards the bottom of the Big 12. While on the flip side, most people at least believed K-State could be competing throughout the season in some big games. Probably lose more than they did, but they ended up winning the Big 12 championship. They've still got a good coach. And again, you can run a conference that is about to lose their two biggest names and start creating a name for yourself as a university and a football program. They're not going to be tough. They're not going to be easy to beat if that is their pitch. I would hope that that's at least something that they're looking at and throwing at these kids, as just looking at how can you get them to Kansas State. For Oklahoma, 100%. Going to the SEC again. And the coach that they have for Boganowski, Brandon Hall, has done a fantastic job. in recruiting for his position. You look at last year, clearly the gem of the 2023 class, Peyton Bowen, committing to him. The safeties have been coached well. I mean, obviously the defense, everyone has their own opinions of it, but I think the safeties are probably one of the better and the deepest positions when it comes to the talent they have there. He recruited the transfer portal well. Brandon Hall, you got it. Just like DeMarco Murray, they're starting, him and DeMarco are creating name for themselves as very talented recruiters and exceptional coaches. So the SEC and Hall are going to be a tough thing for Kansas State to beat. So you just got to hope that he sees that, because the Oklahoma think is going to want another safety, because they do have a lot of talent, but it's also older talent where you're going to lose some to graduation, and you always got to assume at least one or two to the portal.
Always. And you're right. There is a lot of older talent there. Reggie Pearson's there and things like that. So also talking about that safety position, the last guy we'll talk about in this video, and not, there's still plenty of more guys that we didn't talk about that are going to be showing up. So you definitely need to follow us on Twitter and Instagram for retweets and pictures and things like that from the visits, is Michael Patterson McDonald, being from Westmore High School in Oklahoma City, a 3-star safety out of Oklahoma, with a commitment on July 31st. So here in just a few days, Oklahoma seems to be a slam dunk here. Seems like, Oklahoma wants him. He wants to be at Oklahoma. A lot of connections as far as friends and great relationships. This just seems like Oklahoma's just putting the final touches on this. And, maybe he silently commits to Oklahoma this weekend, makes the announcement on Monday, or, that in my mind would make a lot of sense if he decides to go to Oklahoma. What do you think?
Yeah, this one seems like one of those really poorly kept secrets. You look at the schools that were in his top 5, Oklahoma is definitely the biggest brand. He's from the state of Oklahoma. Got to assume he grew up a fan. His friends are starting to commit to Oklahoma. And he's going to be there this weekend. Like, if he was serious about going to not Oklahoma, probably would be taking a visit to one of those other schools in his top list right before his commitment date. The fact that he's on campus for the party at the Palace seems to be like the last thing on the checklist for the upcoming announcement on Monday.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously excited. The regular July is ending with a bang, but at Two Plane Sports we have extended the month of July to until further notice. So July 31st, then we'll start rolling into the 32nd, 33rd, and hopefully there's another guy that might commit July 35th or something like that. So we'll have to see. But obviously there's a lot more guys that are visiting for Sooners Under the Stars and Party at the Palace, but we just don't have enough time to go over all of them. It's going to be a great weekend. It's already started, and it's rolling as we speak. I don't really have anything else. Do you have an individual challenge since Brandon is off tonight?
End of video challenge. Who are you most excited for when it comes to these guys visiting?
Yeah, I mean that's going to be interesting. I think for me, I'm most excited. I think Grant Bree is the guy that Oklahoma needs to close out and win out on. He's a foundational piece for the offensive line. So, but that's all we got. Be sure to like, subscribe, turn the notification bell on, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Apple, Spotify, and TikTok. Everything's linked in the description below. And remember, every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Central, we go live and we talk a little recruiting, talk a little Sooner football, and just hang out. So be sure to turn that notification bell on, and we'll see you guys then.